What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Straight from the Dome X's and O's podcast. As always, I'm your host, John. You can catch me on Twitter at 7not6. Those are the numbers spelled out all the way, and let's get right into this thing. The news of the day, of the week, probably of the month. The Houston football Texans have traded with the Denver Broncos for one Demaryius Thomas. They have given up a 4th-round pick and swapped 7th-round picks to make the deal work, and pending a physical, he will be a member of the Houston Texans. So I find this to be an interesting move that the organization made on a couple levels. So first, even though this is the X's and O's podcast, let's talk about a little bit of non-X's and O's ramifications from this. And the first thing that I think that it signifies is a bit of an ideal change in the front office, because I feel like this is not a move that the previous regime wouldn't have made, and I don't 100% hold this against Rick Smith and the previous ownership or previous management of the Texans, because there just weren't very many big deadline trades in the NFL, and I feel like the league has kind of adopted the basketball and baseball mentality a little bit more over the last couple years in regards to, hey, if we know that we're not a legit title contender and we have assets that we think that we can flip to get younger or to get more value for them, let's do that in really creating a buyer's and seller's market, which has not existed before in the NFL. It used to be when the trade deadline came and went, it was like, a nose tackle would get swapped for a 7th, and that was about it, and it wasn't a very exciting thing. But today, man, we saw, Demaryius Thomas move. We saw Dante Fowler move. There's been some actual movement at the trade deadline. So I think it's encouraging that our front office seems to be one of the front offices that is on the new wave of, managing your team like through as assets instead of just strictly players and things like that, and keeping an eye towards the future and everything like that. And the other thing that the organization is doing that I find to be very encouraging is lots of people, and possibly rightfully so, are looking at the Texans and going, they're 5-3, but they haven't really beaten anyone, and only one of their wins was in convincing fashion, and they did start the season 0-3. We don't know if we're buying these guys. The Texans are looking at where they are and saying, we're in first place in the division. We had somebody go down. What do we do to immediately replace that productivity so that we can keep on rolling and we can go win this thing? This, I think, sends a message to fans. It sends a message to people in the locker room, people inside the organization, the rest of the league, that says that the Texans, they think that they are contenders this season. They're not content to punt on this and wait for another year, because this is going to sound strange because of where the team is and how their roster is perceived, but their championship window is right now. And the reason that their championship window is right now is because Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a top-tier quarterback, and most importantly, he's still on a rookie deal, which in terms of salary cap means that you essentially have a top-tier quarterback for free. Because if Deshaun Watson keeps up this level of play, or anything near this level of play, he's going to end up being the highest paid quarterback of all time eventually. It's just a matter of time until it happens. So right now, you have the flexibility to go out and spend a 4th on a player to try to make a team better. You have the flexibility to sign guys. You're going to be able to extend Clowney, the Honey Badger, sign some other free agents this offseason, because you've got the flexibility within the cap to do those things. And once Deshaun Watson gets paid, then things like your 4th-round pick that you swap for Demaryius become much more valuable, because you have to have people on the roster at very manageable contracts, which means getting players on their rookie deal. So just because of the position that we're in right now with Deshaun, this is our window where we need to be. I don't want to say we need to be trading draft picks, because ideally you want to hold on to all of your draft picks and try to maximize your draft capital. But this is your opportunity to go out and be aggressive, because you have that rookie quarterback on that rookie contract. Well, not a rookie quarterback, but you have the quarterback on that rookie contract, which gives you the flexibility to go out and do these things. And then to change gears a little bit and look at it from an X's and O's standpoint, I really like the move. So Demaryius Thomas was drafted into the league because he's a very big, very fast guy. And now I would say that he has aged into a very big, fast guy. he by no means has willful or speed. He's not going to take the top off of a defense. He's not going to strike fear into opposing coordinators and make them play their safeties way back or anything like that. But he is a player that still demands respect from defensive coordinators, and scheme-wise, you have to account for where Demaryius Thomas is. You can't punt on covering him, to use another football term there. So what I've always said since basically 2014 is the job of the second receiver in the slot receiver, everyone else on the field not wearing number 10 during a play, is to take as much attention away from number 10 as possible. Your goal is to get DeAndre Hopkins in one-on-one situations where he has the opportunity to go for those 50-50 balls, because anchorman style, 50% of the time, it works like 85% of the time. 50-50 balls for him are not 50-50 balls. He comes down with just an obscenely high percentage of those things. But when he does not come down with those is when he's being bracketed, when he's got a corner and a safety and a linebacker dropping into coverage, and he's just having to try to work through a whole crowd of defenders to do that. And if the people that you're putting out there on the other side of him are Sammy Coates and, oh, good Lord, Tyler Ervin in the slot, then defenses are going to say, yeah, let's sell out to stop DeAndre Hopkins. Go ahead and beat us with Tyler Ervin and Sammy Coates. Go for it. Why not? You know, if we lose to them, we can live with that. Putting Demaryius Thomas on the other side of the field, no logical defensive coordinator is going to say, okay, you want to beat us with Demaryius Thomas? Go ahead, because Demaryius Thomas still can beat you. He might not be the Demaryius Thomas of just a couple years ago, but he's still a very, very good football player. So, and the other part of that is, if teams do decide to play a very straight-up coverage and give these guys single coverage on both sides and not double or bracket anybody, or if they do decide to bracket Hopkins and Demaryius Thomas has his one-on-ones, he needs to win those matchups, and that's not something that I feel like any other number 2 on the roster was capable of doing. Was when defenses sell out to stop Hopkins, no one was capable of going out there and winning their one-on-one matchups. And I feel like Demaryius Thomas is a guy that can come in and basically from day one win those one-on-one matchups where he gets put with the second corner and the safeties are playing deep because they respect both, Kiki is QT when he gets back, DeAndre Hopkins on the field, Demaryius Thomas out there. Those three guys are going to force defenses to play some pretty straight up coverages because you can't double multiple people. You can only take one guy and say, you scare the crap out of us, we're going to move all of our resources to stopping you. And with the addition of Demaryius Thomas, you can't really do that to DeAndre Hopkins anymore without the threat of getting burned. So I think it makes a lot of sense from a football perspective. Now, Demaryius Thomas, the player, I mentioned he's slowed down a little bit. He's not quite what he used to be. And just to give a quick player profile on him, he's a guy that when he came out of college, I feel was a little raw and never quite refined his game because he was so physically talented when he came out of college. He was so fast and he had such a big frame that he could get away with some sloppy route running and not having the best hands in the world. And that's unfortunately something that he hasn't really grown into as his career progressed. It's something that he's remained kind of a so-so player on. He does have a tendency to drop balls. He can get a little lazy with his route running, but he's also a guy that I firmly believe and have seen that he plays to the level of his quarterback. And when it's Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian and Case Keenum, no offense to Case, I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate mail now because I said something ill about Case Keenum. None of those guys are top-tier quarterbacks that are able to get him the ball in amazing plays. They'll get him the ball, but they don't really give him the opportunity to shine. Unlike when he was out there with Peyton Manning and he was catching touchdowns all over the place. So I feel like playing with Deshaun is going to be as good for him as he's going to be for everybody else on the field. Because if you're a corner and you have to be on an island covering Demaryius Thomas, you don't want to have to do that for more than 2 or 3 seconds on the play. Because past that, you're going to lose track of the guy. He's just too slippery, he's too quick, and it's hard to cover any NFL quality receiver for more than about 2 or 3 seconds. So I feel like him being out there with the combination of Deshaun Watson's escapability and an ability to improvise, I feel like I feel like, it's going to take me one more try to get this out, I feel like Deshaun Watson is going to be able to find him on a lot of unscripted, I'm out of the pocket, somebody get open, hey, look, Demaryius Thomas came off of his guy, let me tag this guy for a big gain. I feel like that's something that hopefully that we do see out of this, but the other side of the coin is he might come in and play like a 30, almost 31-year-old receiver and just be a vanilla contributor. I feel like those are the two sides of the spectrum that we're going to get for him. And really, that's about all I had to say today on that. If you have any questions or if you have any requests for any future episodes, you can feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Like I said in the beginning, it's 7 not 6. Those are the numbers spelled out all of the way. Feel free to reach out to me for any comments, questions, concerns, requests, if you just want to talk a little trash, anything like that. But with all of that being said, everybody be safe, everybody be cool, and I will see you next time.